have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you work, something always keeps you small? You sacrifice sleep time, even your health, yet the rewards never match the effort. Meanwhile, others less talented, less moral, even less deserving rise above you with ease. It feels like a cruel trick, doesn't it? But here's the secret nobody dares to admit. Life doesn't reward effort. It rewards leverage. It doesn't reward goodness. It rewards power. And the people who seem untouchable, unstoppable, unshakable, they're not playing the same game as you. They know something darker, something most avoid because it shatters comforting illusions. They know that fairness is a story told to keep you obedient, that morality is often theater, and rules are written to protect the powerful, not you. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He saw that those who cling to ideals of fairness, kindness, and patience often end up crushed beneath those who act with cold calculation. And unless you're willing to see the world as it truly is, you'll remain prey in a game designed for predators. This series isn't about motivation. It isn't about just working harder. It's about forbidden knowledge, the kind that strips away illusions and forces you to see how power, respect, and wealth are truly built. By the end, you won't just understand the game. You'll be ready to play it. You were told since childhood that life is fair, that if you work hard, follow the rules, and keep your head down, the universe will reward you. But let me ask you, how many hardworking men have you seen die poor? How many obedient employees have been discarded the moment they were no longer useful? How many good people live unnoticed, struggling, while the ruthless and cunning rise to the top? Fairness is the greatest illusion ever sold to humanity. It is the bedtime story whispered to keep the masses calm. It is the leash placed around your neck so you never think to bite back. And the more you believe in fairness, the more predictable and therefore exploitable you become. Machiavelli wrote, "Men are so simple and so much creatures of circumstance that he who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived." Fairness is one of those deceptions. It lulls you into waiting, into hoping, into believing that the scales will balance on their own. But the truth is, cold, the scales only tip when someone forces them to. Look at history. Kingdoms were not built by men waiting their turn. They were carved from blood, from manipulation, from the refusal to play by rules that chained others. Look at today's world. Corporations don't dominate because they are good. They dominate because they bend laws, control narratives, and buy influence, while the average man prays for justice that never comes. The illusion of fairness feeds weakness. It convinces you to swallow disrespect, to tolerate exploitation, to accept crumbs with a smile, because surely tomorrow will reward your patience. But tomorrow never comes. Here is the dark truth. Fairness is not real. Power is, respect is, control is. And these are never handed out. They are seized. The predator understands this. He does not complain about unfairness. He engineers advantage. He does not hope for recognition. He commands it. He does not play for approval. He plays for dominance. If you want freedom, if you want respect, if you want wealth, you must burn the illusion of fairness from your mind. Stop waiting for life to be just. Stop expecting others to do the right thing. They won't. They are too busy playing their own game. Instead, learn what Machiavelli understood. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Fear bends people. Respect binds them. But fairness binds only you. The moment you see this illusion for what it is, the world shifts. You stop being prey. You stop being blind. You stop being the obedient servant of systems that were never designed for you. And in that awakening, you begin to step onto the path of true power, cold, deliberate, and unapologetic. Most people fear silence. They rush to fill it with words, explanations, apologies, anything to escape the unbearable weight of emptiness. But here is the dark truth. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is pressure. Silence is power. Think of the last time someone insulted you. What did you do? You argued, you defended yourself, you laughed it off. All of those reactions gave them fuel. But imagine if you had said nothing. Imagine if you had simply looked at them with cold stillness, letting their words rot in the air. That silence would have crushed them harder than any comeback. Weak men equate silence with defeat. They think if they do not speak, they lose. But predators understand the opposite. Silence unsettles. It forces others to reveal themselves, to ramble, to explain, to apologize. It makes them bleed information, respect, and control while you sit unshaken. Machiavelli himself warned, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him." Silence allows you to test men without ever showing your hand. You let them talk, and in their words, their loyalties and weaknesses expose themselves. In negotiation, silence bends the room. The impatient man reveals his lowest price. The insecure man overshares. The desperate man pleads. And the one who holds silence holds leverage. Because in a world addicted to noise, the man who can remain unreadable becomes dangerous. Look at history's most feared figures. They were not the loudest. They were the quietest. Kings who spoke little, but whose presence demanded obedience. Generals who let silence stretch before issuing a single, devastating command. Even in business today, the most powerful men are those who pause, who wait, who let others drown in their own words. Silence is not absence. It is a weapon sharpened by restraint. It tells the world, I do not need to prove myself. I do not need to explain. I decide when words matter. That aura terrifies people more than anger ever could. But silence has a condition. It must come from strength, not weakness. Silence born of fear is submission. Silence born of calculation is dominance. The difference is in your intent. Are you quiet because you are afraid to speak, or because you choose not to waste words on the unworthy? Practice this in small doses. When someone makes a careless remark, pause, look at them. Let the silence grow heavy. When someone pressures you for an answer, resist the urge to rush. Wait, watch, let them sweat. You will see how quickly silence bends even the proudest man. The herd uses words as a shield. The predator uses silence as a blade. And when wielded with mastery, that blade cuts deeper than anything you could ever say. So, remember this: the next time disrespect comes, the next time you feel cornered, say nothing. Not because you are weak, but because you are untouchable. For in silence, you command fear. In silence, you command respect. In silence, you command the game itself. Most people destroy their own power, not because they are weak, but because they are inconsistent. One day they enforce their boundaries with iron discipline. The next day they let things slide, just this once. That one exception is all it takes to unravel everything. Predators smell inconsistency the way wolves smell blood. Once they see that your standards bend, they know you can be broken. Human beings are like water. They always flow toward the path of least resistance. If you let disrespect slide once, even in a small moment, you have carved out a channel for future violations. And soon, the river floods your entire life. People will test you over and over again, not because they hate you, but because they are wired to push until they find weakness. Your inconsistency becomes their invitation. Think of the doormat. He shouts once, slams his fist on the table, and declares never again. For a week, maybe even a month, people respect his new strength. But then one day he lets something slip. A friend mocks him, and he laughs along. A coworker interrupts him, and he says nothing. That single fracture tells the world his rules are negotiable, and once negotiable, they are worthless. Machiavelli wrote, "Men are so simple, and so much inclined to obey immediate necessities that a deceiver will never lack victims for his deceptions." The immediate necessity is this: if your boundaries collapse even once, people will deceive themselves into believing they never truly existed. They will test, push, and probe until they find the hole in your armor. But the few who understand consistency, true, relentless, merciless consistency, become untouchable. Every time someone disrespects them, the response is the same, cold, sharp, predictable. No outbursts, no exceptions, no confusion. Over time, this creates a reputation far more powerful than any speech. People begin to police themselves around you. They whisper, "Don't cross him." It's never worth it. Consider how generals train armies. Discipline is not taught through speeches. It is forged in repetition. The soldier who breaks rank, even once, puts the whole formation at risk. That is why consistency is drilled into their bones until obedience is automatic. Your life works the same way. If you are inconsistent, your army, your reputation, your relationships, your influence crumbles. Look around. The people most respected in your world are not necessarily the richest or the loudest. They are the ones who are consistent. You know exactly what to expect from them. If they set a boundary, it stands every time. If they say no, it means no. This predictability is terrifying in the best way possible, because when people know you will always enforce consequences, they stop testing you. Now apply this to yourself. What is the behavior you currently tolerate sometimes? Interruptions, late arrivals, sarcasm at your expense. Choose one, and from this moment forward, respond the same way every single time. No exceptions, no emotional fluctuations, just cold repetition. At first, people will push harder. They will test to see if your newfound steel can bend. But if you remain consistent, the testing stops. Relentless consistency is not cruelty. It is clarity. It tells people exactly where they stand with you. They don't have to guess whether today is the day you will tolerate disrespect. They know you never will. That clarity brings respect, and respect brings peace. Remember, this inconsistency is the graveyard of power. Consistency is its fortress. And when your standards never bend, when your reactions never falter, you become unshakable. So let this be your affirmation. My standards never bend. My discipline is relentless. My consistency is my crown. Here's the dark truth. Ordinary responses are forgettable. When someone disrespects you and you respond with equal force, it becomes just another exchange in their mind. They mock you, mock back. They interrupt you, talk louder. This is noise white static. It doesn't change anything. But when your response is disproportionate, colder, sharper, heavier than expected, you carve a scar into memory. And scars don't fade easily. Disrespect is never about the moment itself. It is always a test, and the purpose of a test is to see how far the boundaries stretch. If you answer disrespect with light pushback, they learn your limits. They calibrate. They know how much they can take without real consequence. But when your response is disproportionate, you break the test itself. You shatter the assumption that your reactions can be measured. Think about this. A coworker mocks you in front of others. The predictable move. Laugh it off or snap back with your own joke. Both are weak, but the disproportionate move. You say nothing. You look at them in silence until the laughter dies, and then you turn away, excluding them from the conversation entirely. For the rest of the day, you give them absence, your attention withheld like oxygen. The room feels it. They feel it. Suddenly, the cost of their mockery is far heavier than the cheap laugh they gained. Or imagine a friend who constantly shows up late. Most people complain, maybe joke about it, maybe forgive. But the disproportionate response. You stop inviting them, no explanation, no drama. When they ask why, you tell them flatly, "Because you don't value my time." That sting lingers for months. Machiavelli wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Fear in this sense is not violence, it is memory. People fear repeating mistakes that carried real consequences. They fear stepping on landmines hidden beneath your calm surface. Here's the psychology: humans are risk calculators. If crossing you costs nothing, they'll do it again. If crossing you costs discomfort equal to their action, they may still try. But if crossing you creates a cost vastly greater than they expected, they will think twice next time. That is the logic of disproportionate response. But don't confuse this with rage or tantrums. Explosive anger makes you look unstable, predictable, even foolish. True disproportion is quiet, strategic, icy. It is absence when they expected engagement. It is withdrawal of access time or privilege. It is the subtle punishment that keeps them awake at night, replaying the moment in their mind. This is why powerful people often appear detached. They don't argue. They don't debate. They cut access. They impose distance. They deliver silence heavier than any words. The offender is left with the echo of their own disrespect, forced to sit with it. That psychological weight is far greater than any insult could be. Ask yourself, when was the last time someone crossed you and you let it slide? What if instead you had given them a consequence so sharp they'd remember it weeks later? How would your relationships, your workplace, your life feel different? Disproportionate consequences work because they create stories. People don't just remember what they did, they remember the fallout. They whisper to others, "Don't test him. It's not worth it." That reputation multiplies faster than kindness ever could. Your challenge is to choose the right weapon. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's distance. Sometimes it's the surgical phrase that cuts deeper than anger ever could. What matters is this: your response must outweigh their offense. Let this be your law. The punishment must echo louder than the disrespect. And your affirmation: my consequences are unforgettable. My boundaries are steel. My power is unquestionable. Power is never just about what you do. It is about what people believe you might do. Actions matter, yes, but image precedes action. And in the theater of human psychology, your image is the first move, the hidden sword, the aura that bends others before a single word is spoken. Here's the brutal truth: most people obsess over being liked. They laugh too loudly, explain too much, chase approval in every room they enter. But the man who is liked is rarely the man who is feared. And the man who is not feared is always vulnerable. Machiavelli warned, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few know what you really are." That is the law of image. You do not need to reveal your soul, you only need to control appearances. Think of the ones who command instant respect. They don't raise their voices, they don't beg for recognition. They enter a room, and silence follows them like a shadow. Why? Because their image has been crafted brick by brick, moment by moment, through consistency, through control, through the refusal to be ordinary. The dark image is not about theatrics, it is about restraint. It is about removing the leaks that betray weakness, nervous chatter, restless gestures, overeager smiles. It is about cultivating stillness so deep that people project their own fears onto you. In your silence, they see danger. In your composure, they see authority. In your unpredictability, they see risk. Here's the psychology: the human brain is terrified of the unknown. An unreadable face, a controlled tone, a refusal to be baited, these create an aura more powerful than aggression ever could. People fear what they cannot read, and they respect what they cannot predict. Now imagine this: in a meeting, someone mocks you, expecting laughter. You don't argue, you don't joke back. You simply look at them with cold indifference and then move on as if they never spoke. That one gesture reshapes the room. You didn't need words, the dark image spoke for you. Or, picture this: a competitor brags, trying to provoke a reaction. You give nothing. No anger, no excitement, no defense. Just silence and a faint smile that says, "I know something you don't." That's the dark image. It forces them to question themselves, to doubt, to hesitate. And hesitation is death in the game of power. The key is subtle repetition. You enforce small rituals: your measured walk, your deliberate pauses, your refusal to over-explain. Over time, these fragments accumulate into legend. People whisper, "Don't mess with him. He doesn't play the same game as the rest." Machiavelli himself noted that rulers should cultivate appearances of mercy, of strength, of decisiveness, because appearances shape loyalty more than reality ever will. The same is true for you. You don't need to reveal every thought, every plan, every weakness. You only need to project the image that serves you: controlled, enigmatic, untouchable. But beware, this image must be consistent. If you crack, if you overshare, if you collapse into emotional chaos, the mask shatters and the spell breaks. That is why discipline is everything. Your dark image must be a fortress. Remember this law: people believe in the story you project, not the truth you hide. And once you master that story, you no longer need to chase respect. It arrives uninvited, carried by fear, awe, and the human imagination. So here is your affirmation: my presence is power. My silence is authority. My image is my weapon. Most people think power is about strength, wealth, or charisma. They believe dominance is loud, obvious, undeniable. But the truth the masses will never understand is that real power is invisible. By the time it reveals itself, the game has already been decided. The higher Machiavellian strategy is about moving like a ghost, unreadable, untouchable, unstoppable, while everyone else is still playing at being liked. Let me tell you a secret: disrespect, betrayal, even flattery. These are not personal attacks or gifts. They are information. Every interaction is data. Every reaction you provoke is intelligence about the other person's weakness. And the strategist never wastes intelligence. Machiavelli warned that rulers must learn not to be good when goodness destroys them. The same law applies here. The weak waste energy chasing fairness. The strategist harvests information from unfairness. The weak cry about betrayal. The strategist records the betrayer's nature and uses it later. Every enemy, every ally, every critic is a mirror reflecting their own flaws. If you learn to watch, not react, you will always know where to strike. This is the higher level, shifting from defending yourself to weaponizing perception itself. 1. Disrespect as a map. When someone disrespects you, don't collapse into anger. Ask, why did they think they could if they mock you in private but flatter you in public? You've just learned they fear the crowd more than they fear you. If they talk over you, you've discovered they see you as lower status. If they test you and back off when you resist, you know they're cowards. Each act of disrespect reveals who they are and what they'll do under pressure. The ordinary man takes it personally. The strategist writes it down like a scientist. 2. Turning enemies into tools. The weak avoid enemies. The strategist cultivates them. Why? Because enemies are predictable. Their obsession with opposing you makes them reliable actors in your play. If you know what they will always do, you can maneuver them into traps. You don't destroy enemies immediately. Sometimes you keep them close, feed them fragments of information, and let their hatred blind them into exposing themselves. Machiavelli himself said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." But the higher truth is this: it is best to be studied. When your enemies waste energy tracking your every move, they serve you more faithfully than your friends ever could. 3. Silence as a blade. At this level, silence is no longer just self-control. It becomes a weapon you deliberately deploy. Imagine a negotiation where you say almost nothing, watching the other party unravel in desperation to fill the void. Imagine a rival trying to provoke you, and instead of defending yourself, you respond with a single cold glance and then withdraw. They stew in their own uncertainty, fearing what you'll do next. Silence forces others to move while you remain immovable. In chess, it's not the piece that moves recklessly that wins. It's the one that waits until the board is tilted in its favor. Silence is that tilt. 4. Withholding is power. Most people overshare. They think giving information builds trust. In reality, information is leverage. The strategist withholds not out of fear, but out of design. You reveal pieces of yourself the way a magician reveals tricks, only enough to mislead, never enough to be predictable. Your silence creates mystique. Your half-truths keep others chasing clarity they will never get. And in that chase, you own them. Remember, the most powerful rulers in history weren't those who screamed commands. They were those whose intentions remained unreadable until their enemies were already trapped. 5. Illusion as currency. This is where you rise above mere tactics. Reality is limited, but appearances are infinite. People don't follow truth, they follow belief. The strategist crafts appearances so carefully that others build their own prisons inside illusions you designed. You don't have to be the strongest. You only have to look unbreakable. You don't have to be the richest. You only have to project inevitability. The weak cling to honesty as if it were a virtue. The strategist knows appearances bend reality itself. 6. Exploitation without mercy. Every weakness is an opening. Most recoil at the word exploit. They call it cruelty. But look closer. Exploitation is the essence of strategy. To exploit is to notice what others ignore. To exploit is to turn wasted motion, wasted energy, wasted time into your advantage. The strategist doesn't invent opportunities. He takes them from the blind. When panic spreads, he stays calm and buys. When others overextend, he waits and strikes. When someone reveals a weakness, he doesn't comfort them. He records it, waits, and cashes it in when the moment arrives. This is not cruelty. It is survival. 7. The predator's patience. At this height, you understand that impatience is poverty. The herd rushes to act, spending energy, burning capital, bleeding power. The strategist waits. Like a lion hidden in tall grass, he does not move until victory is inevitable. And when he moves, it is sudden, decisive, merciless. One strike ends the game. The higher Machiavellian strategy is not about aggression. It is about invisibility. You become someone others can never read, never predict, never corner. They project their fears onto you. They chase your approval, but never find it. They attack you, but only on the ground you've already chosen. And that is the highest law of power, to move in such a way that by the time others see what you've done, it is already too late. So, here is your affirmation. I am unreadable. I am untouchable. I am unstoppable.